I had read on your educational background,
Yeah.
which I was not expecting the president of OLLU to be come from the STEM field.
Okay. Yeah. I am an engineer, or used to be, or still am. I don't know.
Yeah. So.
Hola, hi, bienvenidos. Welcome to Charla con Chávez. I am your president of Our Lady of the Lake University, Dr. Abel Chávez. And today I get to charlar with Nemesis Crociata. Who is Nemesis Crociata? Where were you born? What was your house like? The house that you grew up in? I understand that you lived in Ohio for some time. Who is Nemesis?
So I was born in Los Angeles.
Okay.
My mother immigrated from the Philippines when she was about 3 or 4, and she grew up in Los Angeles. So, naturally, that's where I was born. We stayed for a couple of years before my parents figured out maybe LA wasn't the environment that they wanted to raise their child in. So we moved to Ohio, and I grew up there in a small community. I went to a good public school. Got good enough grades. And when I was 18, I wanted to move out to California, study art, study animation, which I did for about a year and a half. And then I realized it was something that I loved doing, but it wasn't a lifelong career path for me. I had other stressors in my life going on, and those took precedence over, creating art. And I thought, art's a good relief when I have time, when I have the headspace, but for a career, I need to be present every day that I'm doing that. And I came to the conclusion that when I found social work as a field, I didn't realize that you could study social justice. I thought that was something that you could advocate for if you have the right circles, the right connections, but as a field of study, when I found it, it just connected to me that was something that I could do every day, no matter what was happening in my personal life. So that's what started my path here at OLLU.
Yeah. So you are studying social work, and at what point did you identify with social work as a career path for you?
It was sometime during COVID.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly how I found social work. During COVID, I was doing some volunteering advocacy work with a group called Never Again Action. They were a Jewish group focused on advocating for more humane living conditions for the undocumented persons being held in ICE detention facilities. Probably someone in that group called themselves a social worker, and I thought, hey, what is that? But when I realized that was something I wanted to study, I ended up coming to San Antonio for completely unrelated reasons. I stayed with a family's friend, just kind of figuring out what to do with my life. And I thought, I heard about the social work thing. I want to see if maybe I can get a degree in it. Found out you can get a bachelor's in it, of course. And I looked on the Council of Social Work Education's website for accredited schools. OLLU was the closest one. So I thought I'll check out a little bit more, and found out it's a highly rated program. I thought, well, I think this is kind of a sign. So I applied and I enrolled the next semester.
Wow. And what about COVID got you interested in social work? And what about your upbringing then merged with what was happening during COVID that you found perhaps that path and that seed of inspiration?
I think COVID changed most people's life. I think my parents.
Oh, you're right about that.
Yeah. I think my parents, they were pretty settled in what they were doing at the time, career wise, and they could help support my changing path. For me, I don't remember what I was doing when it started. I was in community college already. I had dropped out of art school. I was just taking general education courses. So I was kind of floating around, but every day you're reading about different groups or individuals or communities or countries that are being affected by COVID. Always negative, nothing positive to report. Everyone has a different take or lens on the ways that it's impacting us, whether it's through racial disparity lens, feminist lens, disability lens. That was, I think, a really important time for me to think about the way that different systems were interacting to make this a more than just a health issue. Yeah, I think seeing all that happening was what kind of cemented for me that advocacy, if there was an opportunity to study it and make a career out of it, make a lifelong ambition out of it, for me, it couldn't just be something I try to do on the side. It would have to be, a full commitment that I would make. And I'm happy to do it.
Yeah. And so here at Our Lady of the Lake, you are a social work major. You are in the McNair Scholars Program. And the McNair, part of the McNair program is you really conducting and tackling a major research question. What's the question that you're tackling as part of your McNair Scholars Program?
So for me, because I was a graduating senior, they said, you have just enough time to join the current cohort.
Oh, okay.
If you want to. So I didn't get to do the literature review. What I knew was I wanted to study the intersections between race and social media.
Okay.
Totally different from the research foci that I have now.
Yeah.
Or want to pursue in a PhD program. But I landed on the research topic, a question of I keep changing the title of it.
Yeah,
I need to
and
circle back.
Right. And that's the fun thing about research too, right? Because as you start addressing or answering the question, then you learn something new, and then you pivot a little, and our interests evolve. And I think you're going to see much more of that throughout your doctoral research once you start tackling that in a year or in a couple years.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because I know I would not ask an interesting research question right now. I definitely don't know enough. I ended up settling on attitudes of white non-Hispanics towards Generation Z, towards the influence of social media on racial beliefs.
Okay.
I enjoy doing the research and exploring that research question because the process is fun.
Right.
But I definitely don't think I would ask that same question knowing now what I've learned throughout the process.
Yeah. And so, Nemesis, you see yourself growing, you see yourself evolving. Now you're beginning to think about a PhD, graduate work. Who is the person that has influenced you the most throughout your life? Who are the top 3 who have influenced you?
Definitely my mother is one of them.
What's her name?
Anna.
Okay.
Anna Crociata. She usually responds poorly when I call her mother, so I know her as mom. But she also is a researcher. I don't think she would call herself that. Right now, she has the title of Director of Digital Strategy. Works at, I think, a medium-sized marketing agency. And it's interesting. It just connected for me. She only got her high school degree. She had been accepted to Columbia University when she was 18. And her mother told her that she couldn't go because it was too far. So on her 18th birthday, then her mother kicked her out and said, well, you're an adult, so, find your way. So she ended up hitchhiking her way up to UC Berkeley, which was her second choice school. And she dropped out after a semester because she was 18 and essentially homeless, from my understanding. So trying to figure out how to finance a second semester at UC Berkeley, she couldn't do it. So she ended up dropping out, having me. And, with a kid at 20 years old, as a single mom living in LA, no family support. She had to work so hard to, find her footing. And she, again, with just her high school diploma, is now making 6 figures at this agency that she's given so much to. I would see her work like 50, maybe 60-hour work weeks. I remember in high school, especially, that was when work was ramping up for her. It was a lot more stressful. I would sit with her in the mornings and watch her do her makeup. It was like the one time of the day that she had some privacy. And of course I was there because I was nosy. And just giving herself that relief, putting on like her battle face, right, for her 10-hour work day. And she would tell me, don't do what I did. Do what you love. Whatever you decide to do for your career, study, just make sure that you love it. And so that's why I wanted to, learn how to draw, because I was like, oh, I love doing that. But now that I'm older, I realize, doing what I love, this is going to look a lot like what she's doing in her job. It can get her down. There are some projects that are more fun than others, like working with the baseball team. And there are projects where she's spending, months researching children with cancer for a health insurance company client that they have. So in terms of doing what I love, not doing what she did, be doing close to what she's doing, but just I guess my own direction. But she's definitely a major influence for me.
Does she have any words of wisdom that she every time that you talk to her, she shares with you?
She's always giving me good advice. One piece of advice I always love is never to be nervous in an interview. They want you to be the person to hire. Lately, it's been a lot of her comforting me in my imposter syndrome when I'm I'm worried I'm not a likely candidate for grad schools, or that I'm a little old to be getting my bachelor's degree at 25. She's had to face a lot of imposter syndrome, being who she is, having her credentials as a Filipina immigrant in Northwest Ohio. I don't know if she has any particular words of wisdom, but we're always there for each other to make sure we both see and understand. We're a little bit of fish out of water, but we've made it this far.
Yeah. After this conversation, call her or shoot her a text and let her know how much you care for her.
Oh, absolutely. She's the first one getting this link
to
this podcast.
Good. Now, I understand that you have some questions for me as well.
Yeah, I had read on your educational background, which I was not expecting the president of OLLU to be come from the STEM field.
Okay. Yeah. I am an engineer, or used to be, or still am. I don't know.
Yeah. So how do you bridge that gap between your STEM background and working in an educational institution? What is your mindset when you're coming into work, utilizing what you learned in college?
Yeah. So I see engineering, which is the study of systems, right? And the system might be a material. It might be a city or some urban area. It might be some manufacturing line, but a system. I see leading an institution of higher education, Our Lady of the Lake University, being that system. And as an engineer, I feel that I'm able to see the system holistically and say, all right, so I'm going to apply these metrics to better understand the system. There are inputs, there are outputs in that system. And then within the system, there are activities that happen that create those outputs and also, attract those inputs. And as I study the metrics, the data, ask questions, listen to people, starting with students, with faculty, with staff, with the board, with friends of the university, et cetera, then I start double clicking and really, zooming into different parts of the system to say, okay, this is part of the system that I really need to understand. And Charla con Chávez is part of that system, right? Celebrating and providing a platform for our students, because y'all, our students, make all of this happen. And so that's how I see the translation from engineering or STEM to running an institution of higher education. But Charla con Chávez is twofold. One, yes, to communicate to students, but at least for me, more importantly, two, is to highlight and profile our students.
I'm curious, but when you're thinking of a non-traditional student, and you yourself were a non-traditional student, I'm curious what that looks like for you now, also being at a small Hispanic serving institution compared to when you were an undergraduate student or graduate student.
My non-traditional status as a student, I too started at the community college, and my master's and my doctorate were done with kids, married, with a family. And so you could only imagine the additional coordination and complexities of being a student. And for my doctorate, I was a full-time student, but also being a dad, a husband, a son, and everything else.
Yeah, working on your dissertation, that must have been like giving birth.
It was for nearly 5 years, and I was able to complete it in 4.5 years. But non-traditional students then, compared to today, I believe, Nemesis, that there's so many parallels, right? The things that happen to us in our daily lives. Perhaps a car breaks down as I'm going from work to school, and now that is exhausting some of my bandwidth. So if I show up to school, if I make it to school, right, if I'm able to get my mechanic over to pick up my car and take it to the shop, then I don't think I'm going to be able to show up as my whole self. And if it's a test day, then I think that's really going to throw a curveball, right? Or if one is taking care of a parent or an elder family member, then that too, right, is also going to need to be part of how I show up and when I show up and how I can show up. And so those things, I think, are common denominators then as they are today. In terms of access to education and the reasons why we all attend or have attended an institution of higher education, I also believe that we all want to have a livelihood based on our values, right? And education is such an important part of us building that livelihood based on our values. And what I'm learning from you is that is social justice, right? And social work and providing voice to communities.
It's definitely supported by the values here at OLLU. I was raised atheist myself, so I never imagined going to a Catholic institution. But I've really appreciated that those kinds of values are foundational for this institution, and it's not necessarily tied to Catholicism in that you have to be Catholic to follow it. But I appreciate that in the Hispanic community of San Antonio, there's within this Catholic institution, they embrace ideas of service, of equality, advocacy, while also, acknowledging the cultural aspect of it,
right?
That it's not just about the faith or about service in itself. It all kind of works together.
Right. So as we wrap up our conversation, I want to share a reflection that I'm having as I listen to you that way back many years ago when I was starting my doctorate work, I had a conversation with the lady who ended up being my doctoral advisor, Dr. Anu Ramaswamy, who has been such a strong presence and leader and voice in my life. And back then, when I was having the conversation with her about should I do a doctorate and why should I, and she said, look, you have many reasons why you should, you have many reasons why you should not. But one thing that I could tell you with certainty, she said, is that if you have a doctorate, every about 7 years, you could pivot your career or what you do completely and not miss a beat. You could tackle and you could take on a completely different research question if that's what you're doing, or you could enter a different field or a different industry. And Nemesis, I tell you what, that having my doctorate has certainly proven that because you have this platform and you have an obligation to be responsible with the knowledge that you have, that you're called into conversations, you're called to answer questions, you're called to do research to move society forward. And that is so cross-cutting and overarching. So I really hope that you complete that PhD and that you're able to possess that PhD in a few years.
Thank you. I really hope so.
Last 2 questions for you. So what is it that you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be a professor at the university level and a lifelong researcher and student, and hopefully a good, busy person, productive, and having lots of fun.
And last question is, what kind of ancestor do you want to be?
I want to be someone that that my family generations after can hopefully remember my name. I think it'll be easy with my name, but someone that they can remember who worked really hard for their accomplishments. I don't know what my accomplishments will be yet. Maybe it'll be extensive. Maybe it'll look completely different from how I imagine. But I hope that they can know that whatever it is I accomplished, that I tried my best, and that whatever goals that they have, as long as they're trying their best to achieve them, that I'll be proud.
I applaud you. Thank you for being here at Our Lady of the Lake University. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your can-do and will-do attitude. As a token of my appreciation for you agreeing to this conversation with Charla con Chávez, I have a hat, a Charla con Chávez hat for you.
Thank you.
And a Charla con Chávez t-shirt for you. Perfect. Wear it with pride, and share the link, of course, of this episode with your mama. And maybe gift one of these to her if you wish.
Oh, yeah. We're going to be twinning.
Thank you for all your good work, Nemesis. I so appreciate you. Thank you for being at OLLU.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.